Hello and welcome to the first Physics with Python video. I'm Nick Ezo, the instructor for this course, and today we're going to be going over some of the most basic concepts in physics. But before we get into any of the details, let's start with asking ourselves the question, what is physics and what is it trying to study? In a broader sense, physics is trying to understand and quantify the universe. In a more specific sense, it's understanding matter, energy, and the interactions between them, but that's still pretty abstract and very far from anything practical that we can see as a novice, as a beginner. So let's start by asking ourselves, what are some easy things to quantify? What is something that I quantify on a daily basis? Probably something like position or location. You're probably constantly telling yourself, I'm at home, I'm going to go to school, I'm about to go to the grocery store, you tell your parents, you tell your friends where you are. So position is a very natural place to start with quantifying something in the universe. So let's just draw a point and represent this as your house. And say there's a point over here that is the school that you need to go to every day to get an education. Well, I guess you're not learning physics there, but get an education. Anyway, an important point about position or location is that these are always relative to something else. If you tell someone they're at school, they know where it is in their mind because they know how to get to school from where they are, from their house, from the grocery store. So you have to set up some sort of reference. It's in what position, what location with respect to what. In physics, problems will commonly refer to positions with respect to an arbitrary coordinate system that we construct, which you may remember that we will use what is known as the Cartesian coordinate system with an x and y axis. And you put equally spaced tick marks for some sort of position. And in physics, it's not just enough to put these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sure, the house is at the x position of 2, but 2 what? And today we'll be introducing the unit kilometer, which is the SI unit, or standard unit of measurement across the world for a distance. Now, if you're not familiar with the metric system, I may make a separate video on that, but essentially, this is just a unit of distance. Now, from getting to your house to the grocery store, there are many paths to get there. Say, for example, that you have to drive on this curvy road and take so many paths or so many turns to get there, and you traverse some distance, which we'll just call that this is a distance of 20 kilometers. So it takes you 20 kilometers of distance to get from H to S. But it may be intuitive that there's always a shortest distance path from H to S that is a straight line from H to S. So in physics, we differentiate between these two, and we say that along any path, you traverse some distance. In the first example, you traverse 20 kilometers. In the second example, you traverse, looks like 4 kilometers, right? Because you're going from position 2 to position 6 on the x-axis with no changes in y. But we call this shortest path, the one in cyan, the displacement, which, as has been said, is essentially the path of the shortest distance from H to S. Now, all paths, or all points in space, will have a displacement that you can quantify with a certain distance. But as we indicated, there are different ways to get there that may take more distance, but never less. But this all is great and wonderful, but if I told someone that I was at my house, and I traveled 4 kilometers to get to school, they still have no idea how to get there, right? I have to tell them some sort of directions, right? So in this case, we can draw a little arrow. We're saying we're going to the right. If we say that would be okay. But maybe even better, we have a compass that tells us that we're going east direction. So we tell someone to go from 4 kilometers from my house east. Or we can even set up some sort of angle. So a lot of times in physics, we may set an angle from the positive x-axis. And in this case, this of course would be an angle of 0 because it lines up perfectly with the x-axis. So if we drew a line here, then there would be 0 angle, And just as another example, the y-axis has an angle of 90 degrees with the x-axis. So there are many ways to describe how to get from h to s, and all of this is known as a vector. So a vector is a quantity with both a magnitude, which is this distance here, and a direction, which is this east, or this right, or 0 degrees from the positive x-axis. So this sort of gives you an introduction to some of the quantities that we'll measure and use in physics, but there are many things that you can do with a vector. But I'll leave it to you to learn some of the most important ways to manipulate vectors in the exercises that I will provide. Thank you.